The Bobby O Show.
Hello, my name is Bobby Potzner. I'm here today on my show called The Bobby O Show, and I've got a great show lined up for you all to see today. People ask me, first of all, how do I decide what my topics will be for the shows? I'm an attorney, and I rarely do shows about the law, but I want to tell you how I decide because I think it's important because it ties in to today's show. I try to do shows that are about human interest, especially in the hometown of Richfield or the greater Danbury area. And today's show, which is going to be about the LGBTQ plus community and something they're trying to accomplish in the town of Richfield. But I came to think about this show on two events. One is I went to a police commission meeting in the town of Richfield when there were some actions being thought about that the guests today will talk about. And in order to prepare for a show about the police commission, I happened to go to a show, not a show, but to a meeting about a topic we're going to raise today. And second of all, my wife was downtown Richfield a couple weeks ago, and some young man, I think on the show today is the person, asked her to sign a petition. And my wife said to me, well, Bob, what's this petition about? And I said, I don't really know. And as you all know who are my regular watchers know that I most prefer shows that they know very little about. And that's a show like today. And these two people are going to help me understand better. We have one person who could not make the show today, who was going to be on, who's Alyssa Trachtenberg, and she had a family situation and will be on another show, but not today. So let me introduce to you today to my guests, Levi Groth and Will DeFino.
Hello.
Hi there.
Welcome to the show, both of you. I'd like to start off by giving you each about a minute to tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, where you're going to school, that kind of thing, and then we're going to get into the topic.
So I'm Will DeFino. I recently graduated Ridgefield High School, where I was the president of the GSA, or Gender Sexuality Alliance Club, there for the past 2 years. I have been a huge advocate for the LGBTQ plus community, which includes gay people, lesbian people, trans people, and people who generally don't identify within straight or cisgender identities. I've participated in a lot of advocacy in my community, such as advocacy for a Pride crosswalk in town, which I'm sure we'll discuss at more length. And most recently, a petition to fly the Pride flag outside of Ridgefield's town hall.
Thanks, Will. And Will, you're going to college in the fall, or not the fall, the next couple of weeks. Where are you going?
I'm going to Iona in New Rochelle.
I wish you well. It's a beautiful campus. My late mother used to live in that area, and it's a beautiful campus. And there's some great Italian restaurants in that area too, just so you know. Levi, how about you? What's your story?
Hi, I'm Levi. I joined the GSA in Richfield 2 years ago, and now I've just graduated Richfield High School. I moved to live I have lived around the New York City area for most of my life, and I moved to Ridgefield 3 years ago now. So I've been involved in the Pride crosswalk and the petition to put a Pride flag back up in front of Town Hall. And I've done various other things like Pride in the Park and some advocacy back when I lived in Iowa.
Yeah, the last word you mentioned was the state of Iowa. And
Yes.
we always, as everyone knows, I have a pre-prep show that's pretty thorough. And it struck me that Iowa, and I don't like to judge people as a stereotype, but let's be candid, Iowa is a different state to live in than, let's say, Connecticut. How old were you when you left Iowa?
I left just after my freshman year. So
did you
15?
I'm sorry?
15.
15, okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get into that as we discuss things more. Did you know Caitlin Clark, the basketball player? I'm just kidding. She played at University of Iowa. The word was mentioned of pride, Pride. Would someone tell me what pride means and what it stands for?
Well, I would say it doesn't mean one specific thing, and that's kind of the beauty of it. Pride to me just means that you are able to be comfortable within your identity and feel safe and be happy in your community. And I guess, for lack of a better word, to be proud of who you are. Um, it's not it's not meant to be boastful. It's a word that's meant to encapsulate a feeling of a largely marginalized group, and their right to feel safe and happy and loved in their community.
I see behind you, Will. I would call it a flag. What's that thing behind you that's got different colors?
It's called a pride flag, the like the rainbow pride flag.
And is that a symbol of the Pride? Is Pride officially an organization of some type, or is it just in Richfield, or what's? Uh, right.
The what the flag represents, which is the LGBTQ plus community, is not necessarily like an established like group that meets or has any structure. It's more encapsulates people who identify as gay, lesbian, transgender, etc. So it's not necessarily an organization, but within that subset of people, there are definitely groups such as the GSA, which Levi and I mentioned at my school, and a lot of other advocacy and support groups like that.
Levi, LGBTQ plus. Can you just slowly say what each letter stands for?
Yeah, so LGBTQ plus directly stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. And the plus generally applies to people who don't necessarily identify under the spectrum that is defined in those letters. So this might be people who are unlabeled or people who have a different identity. Yeah, but it's an acronym to help kind of create a sense of community in the same way that Pride does.
I was surprised when I heard, for me, the first time ever, when I went to that police commission. The dog's welcome to the show, by the way. Just you have to identify the dog. Whose dog is it, by the way?
It's my dog Teddy, and he is not camera ready.
Okay, but is he toilet trained? But in any event, anyway, I was shocked when I went to that police commission meeting, and essentially what was going on was, well, actually, why don't you describe it? What was happening at that? What was the purpose of that police commission meeting that I attended? Levi, you want to take a shot at that?
I imagine. Well, we went to two. I imagine you were at the second one, which is where they made the decision. And basically, we were referred to the Board of Police Commissioners for them to assess the legality of having a rainbow crosswalk on the street. And so we went up and Alyssa, who is head of the Ridgefield CT Pride organization, which is just a local like support and advocacy group in town, she went up and she kind of outlaid the rationale and the benefits that would be had by having a Pride crosswalk in town. And then they had a period of public comment, which is where a bunch of us, Will and I, a bunch of students and parents, and people like Susan Coco, who went and spoke in support, or other people who also spoke against having a crosswalk in town. And some of those were pretty emotional statements that people made.
Yeah, and I was very impressed by the commentary, especially from the students. And Susan Coco, who was, she just passed away a couple weeks ago and was head of the Democratic Town Committee in Ridgefield, very much of a women's advocate. And I don't know if you have that picture. I think it's number 4. Yeah, that's Susan is the lady with the purse, with the big smile in the front. And that's Rudy Marconi, our first selectman, across from her. And I'm dedicating the show to Susan Coco. And she was a great advocate. In fact, she was at that meeting. And if I was sitting in the back, and Susan was, if you heard somebody with a loud, booming voice and a big smile, that was Susan. But she was a very strongly an advocate for your organization. But at that meeting, I was surprised to understand that the letter Q stood for queer, and this shows my lack of knowledge of these issues. But how did that word queer get involved in this, and is it offensive to anybody? I don't like a little explanation. Please be helpful.
Well, it definitely stands to reason why a lot of people think that queer is a derogatory word or a slur, because for a very long time it was used specifically as a word to hurt people in the LGBTQ plus community. It was used specifically to degrade and to hurt people. But the thing that's changed about the word is that it has been reclaimed by the LGBTQ plus community. It's something that we chose to take the hateful definition away from, and therefore deprive it of its power to hurt us. And that's important because it shows that the word queer is just a word. It's just a sound that comes out of your mouth, and it's entirely up to the people using it to decide what it means. And it shows just the power that people using the word have to reclaim it. So people in the LGBTQ plus community made the conscious decision to say, we're going to take this word that has been used to hurt and degrade and damage us for the longest time, and we're going to say that this is a word that we're taking back, that we are going to define ourselves by, because it takes the hateful definition away.
What an excellent definition and philosophy you just stated. Because I've played basketball for years, and I used to play with a lot of African American kids and adults, and they would throw around the N word. And one day I said, "Why are you guys using the N word? I would never, want to use that word ever." And they gave kind of a similar but different, discussion. But thank you for explaining that to me. I'm Jewish, and my high school class had 1 or 2 Jewish kids out of 300 kids. So I'm in a small town, Shelton, Connecticut, and I know what it's like, but in a different way. Every diverse group or person has a different impact. But for me, I felt sometimes marginalized. When I ran for student council vice president, my junior year for senior year, I won the election, but somebody put the Star of David, the Jewish star that people know about, on all my posters. And the administration had an immediate school auditorium meeting to say what's all right. So we had the school district supporting me. How has, from each of your own perspective, the Richfield School District, I was on the Board of Ed for many years, as you may know, how in your high school career, for example, how did the school district treat people of the LGBTQ plus community, or in other words, also people who are being discriminated against because of LGBTQ plus? Each of you, like to hear your experiences in the last 4 or 5 years about how you were treated by the school district. Levi, you gonna go first, Levi?
Okay, yeah, I can. Well, I've kind of only really been involved with that for the past 2 years, a little bit more because I've seen it. But it's a slow process, and some of it does require a lot of convincing on our part and on the part of other students who are in the GSA or just like the general student body. One thing we have been working on, and it's gone our way now, is locks for the gender neutral bathrooms to make sure that they're functioning, and so they can provide a private and safe space for gender nonconforming people, as well as other individuals who just want to have privacy while using the bathroom in school. And then more recently, we've installed a small pride display in the driveway and parking lot of the school of like rainbow colored tiger paws. So they're generally pretty welcome to it, even if it takes a little while to get there.
How about you, Will?
I feel the need to start by saying never in Ridgefield Public Schools did I feel as a queer person like I was going to be, like assaulted or hurt. So on that front, like it's definitely a more progressive school district. And I must say, to the credit of Richfield Public Schools administration, I would say every time that we as students wanted to accomplish something, they were willing to at least hear us out and at least sit down with us, regardless of if it was able to happen. For example, Levi spoke about um, the locks on gender neutral bathrooms, which was an issue that we had to work on as a GSA club for many years, because it's not just a frivolous thing to say that every single person who goes to Richfield High School deserves equitable access to safe restrooms. Um, and I would say that over the last 4 years, and I would say, I think I can say without being bashful, that the through the efforts of our organization, our GSA, we have been able um to move the like kind of the queer community at school from a subculture to something more mainstream, to something that people feel comfortable talking openly about in the hallways, or something people feel more comfortable being open and forward about, as opposed to something that is not as opposed to something that's just tolerated, just not punished. It's become something that is more, it's easier to be. And I would say right now it's the best time in history by far to be a young queer person. That's not to say it's perfect, but it's the best time by far.
I'm glad to hear you say those kind of comments, because I happen to know pretty well both Susie De Silva, the superintendent of schools in Richfield, and Liz Hanaway, the head of, I don't know, pupil services, I think they call it, but it's head of special ed and those kinds of things. And they've been on my show several times, and I have a lot of regard for them. And I would expect that if the school district in Richfield is better, or is well treating the kids as well in the LGBTQ plus community, they are good leaders who I think would be the kind of people who, if there were a problem, would react. And I can remember now, as I think about it, after that meeting, I went to the police commission that I referred to. I remember hearing a couple of kids saying that they were unhappy with the way they had been treated in the past at Richfield High School. And I actually spoke to Susie on the way back from one meeting to the other. She was going actually to meet with a group of students in the LGBTQ plus community. So I'm glad to hear that the district that I'm so proud of, that I was on the board of ed of, is doing things appropriately. I'll just tell you a quick little story I had. I think I mentioned to you guys in our prep show. When I was on the board of ed, the Boy Scouts of America came out with a homophobic, shall we say, lack of a better word, position. And at that time, the board of ed allowed 501c3, the nonprofit organizations, to use our schools for free. Well, when that issue arose, I raised my hand in a meeting and said, we can't allow any group to use our schools for free if they're going to discriminate. And the first discussion we had, shall we say, it's not unusual for me to have meetings I was involved with where it might be one person on one side, me, and 8 not supportive of it. But by the time we had further discussions, even though about 40, 50 Boy Scouts came to the next meeting and were trying to intimidate me, which is not possible, as you know, if you know me at all. But plus my son was on the football team, which helped, right? But anyway, eventually we passed the rule that required at that point in time that if you're going to use our schools for free, it's a 501c3 nonprofit, you had to sign a statement of non-discriminatory activity. Where that went when I left the board of ed after 15 years on the board, 6 in Richfield and 9 in Shelton, can't tell you. But there's a lot of people out there who are supportive of everyone's rights. Everyone's rights. I want to hop to the petition. The petition, I would like one of you, whoever wants to, Levi, do you want to jump into, or either one? Tell us exactly what is the petition seeking, and then we'll get into my comments about the petition that we discussed. Who wants to take it first?
I guess I'll take it. So this year, the town decided that it would kind of create a flag flying policy for flags in front of town hall because it had some controversy regarding the flying of an Israeli flag in, I think, November it was. And so basically they created a list of 4 flags that were given the express permission to be flown which is the United States flag, the state of Connecticut flag, the Government of Ridgefield Against Drunk Driving flag, which is a senior school thing, and then the Veterans Missing in Action and Prisoners of War flag. And so the pride flag, as well as a number of other flags that the town had previously flown, have been kind of cut out of that. And so the pride flag was not flown this year. And we are looking to kind of petition for a public vote to get the pride flag back up for next year and hopefully for the June of years following.
Will, is the charter, and by the way, I was actually chairman of the Charter Revision Committee many years ago as well in Richfield, so I know the charter pretty well, but I'm asking this question for you to explain to the people who are watching. Why is the charter involved in this issue?
Well, the resolution that we're trying to amend was adopted largely to, as Levi said, to address the controversy around the flying of the Israeli flag, because as a result of that, there were people who were saying, if you're going to fly the Israeli flag, let's fly the Palestinian flag. And instead of addressing that and effectively taking aside the Board of Selectmen, I believe it was the Board of Selectmen, essentially just adopted a blanket resolution to say we're going to ban the flying of not those four flags that Levi just mentioned. It's not necessarily, and this is a crucial thing to bring up. It's not a resolution that was adopted specifically to ban the flying of the pride flag, even though some people choose to interpret it that way. It's not something that was meant specifically to target the pride flag, which means like from an optimistic perspective, it means that Ridgefield has not actually taken a side against the LGBTQ plus community.
Well, I want to comment on that 1 second, please. Yeah, it's an important point to clarify, which I think you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that whatever policy is in effect now in Ridgefield, it did not have anything to do with saying yes or no to the pride flag. It was a matter of, because Ridgefield's a governmental body, that they have to be careful about taking positions and saying, well, this flag's okay, this flag's not okay, based upon the substance of the flag. And so therefore they have a charter provision, I think you're saying, that requires a petition of some type to have a public hearing to then decide which, if any, other flags get flown. Did I say that correctly, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that I have two things to say about that.
Sure.
One, the fact that this resolution that was adopted was not specifically targeting the pride flag does not mean that people haven't used it as a springboard to try and further ban other outward displays of pride in our community. There have been people, even people in our local government, who have used this as an opportunity to further discuss trying to ban pride banners or pride signs that we have on the lampposts in town. But on the other hand, the fact that this isn't specifically targeting pride flags means that people like us have the ability with this petition to try and amend this to allow the pride flag to fly during June.
I want to, Levi, do you want to add anything before I go to my next point?
No, I don't really. But actually, so the idea with petitioning a town meeting, instead of just having the Board of Selectmen decide which flags they would allow to fly, like the pride flag or something like that, is basically, because it's a town meeting and it's a public vote, it would hopefully protect the Board of Select Persons from any legal repercussions, such as there was recently a Supreme Court case in Boston where they ruled that the city of Boston was discriminating against a religious group for choosing not to fly a flag. I'm not familiar with the contents of that flag, but basically, by doing a public vote, it allows anyone else who would want to fly a flag to have to go out in the public and say, hey, I want to fly this flag. And I think, that I'm wondering if you would do the same. And so this would protect against like other flags. And this is kind of a thing that people say, what about all these other groups of people? What about, like even bigoted groups of people? Like, why can't they fly this flag? And so the idea is by going into the public, we can protect, protect the government and the institution from certain, bigoted attempts, because who's really going to do that?
Yeah, we only have 3 minutes left in the show. We could do a lot more. In fact, if you guys will agree to do a show from college remotely when Alyssa can come, I'll do another show shortly. I want to express to you the concerns I have about the petition that we talked about, and I'm supportive of rights, as you can tell from my positions. The thing that bothers me is that Richfield only requires, I think it's 500 people to sign a petition, and then it goes to a town meeting. I'm concerned about once you start the slippery slope of starting to have organizations like yours, which is a fine organization, but what happens if the neo-Nazis, for example, which is a group obviously I'm strongly against, get together and get a petition? I don't want to see my town having a neo-Nazi flag flown. Then so you can go to other sides. And so you have to be careful in my perspective as to opening this door. But I respect, and it's not, I'm against your position, it's just that's concern of mine. And also your petition says June, which I asked you guys the question, is it June forever? And you said, well, it does say June. So I want to give you my support for your taking the strength of character to fight for what you believe in. I hope you'll spend 10 times the amount of time you're spending now in the election of November 5, which is my birthday. So on November 5th, if the person that I want to win for president, who you know that would be, she's wonderful, that's all I'm going to say. But that when you think of that day, think of Bobby O is getting the best birthday present he wants because of the freedom that we need for our country. Democracy is at stake. It's not who the people are right now, it's democracy at stake. But I want you to work really hard to get all your friends, your family, your enemies even, right, to understand that we can fight later on about the substantive positions that we agree with. Liz Cheney, for example, I do not like Liz Cheney positions on policy, but I give her all the credit in the world for the book she wrote and positions she stated. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds or 20 seconds each to give us a closing statement, and we'll be on again with a show down the road. And good luck in college. Levi, 20 seconds. Go ahead, shoot. Okay,
well, so first of all, thank you so much for having us on here. And I really look forward to this petition passing. So keep your eyes out for the town meeting that's scheduled once all the signatures get handed in. And yeah, if you're a resident of Ridgefield, come to that town meeting and please support the petition so we could have a pride flag, excuse me, my dog, flying back next June and hopefully for June's after as well.
Well, unfortunately, we're totally out of time, but you had a lot of airtime today. I really want to thank you and Alyssa for getting this information to me, and Izzy, who ran for police commission. And I do want to say, may Susan Coco rest in peace. This has been Bobby O on the Bobby O Show. Thank you so very much. Bye now.